This is Guns, Knives, Watches, and this is my Buck Vantage Pro. This is my review of this knife. It did a fine job. As long as fine means donating its guts to a better knife. It did a great job. Now, I know this sounds kind of theatrical, but here's the deal. If you have a Buck Vantage Pro or some of the older Vantage, I know there's been problems, this, that, or the other. People talked about manufacturing inconsistencies, this, that, or the other, and that I'm sure was the case. What I'm going to tell you is an experience that I've had with my Buck Vantage Pros and walk you through my process and our process, and I'll show you a normal, typical sample size of what we will actually test. Now, because nothing in this program is actually a sample size of 1. I don't like sample sizes of 2. I tend to go to larger sample sizes, and you've probably seen that in previous channels or previous videos. But here we go, the Buck Vantage Pro. Now, this was the old Pro. This is before the Force, this, that, or the other. It had an S30V blade, of course made in the USA. And we had our scales, and then carbon fiber handles and all this, that, or the other. If you had problem with your Buck Vantage, doesn't matter what Vantage it is, let's go across the board. There's a possibility, and I'm not in the Buck world, and I'm not on the forums, and trust me, I don't get involved in the forums or anything like that, because we do our own thing, because we don't, if you don't bring a paycheck, baby, it just ain't happening. If you have these nylon bushings instead of phosphor bronze bushings, you see the size of them, you're probably, maybe, kind of, odds are pretty good you're going to have blade centering issues. Now, let's take up our little nylon bushings. And people say, they're Teflon. They're Teflon impregnated nylon, dude. I don't know what to tell you. You're talking foreign to me. Get out of industry speak, man. But anyway, this is the Buck Vantage Pro. Now, that Buck Vantage Pro actually donated its blade to this knife, which was actually is a Buck Paper Stone. Which Paper Stone, if you're not familiar with that, it's a recycled product. There's no oils used in its manufacture, this, that, or the other. And it was only used to be about 25 bucks. The Buck Vantage Pro that I showed you was around 50 or 60, something like that. But it had an S30V blade, so people put up with it. Now, the problem with that is this $25 knife that was actually a later generation, because this is actually the Buck Vantage Select Paper Stone. It still had the 440 blade. Of course, all Buck knives carry the Bose heat treat, or the Boss heat treat, however you want to say it. And that's a differential heat treat depending on where on the blade, whether it's the edge or da-da-da-da-da. So, I took that blade and put it in this knife because, this knife was never giving me any problems. Now, that Buck Vantage Pro, buddy, it was giving me all kinds of... Buddy, I'd use that for a few days, and that thing would start, the blade would start tipping down like, 45-degree angle. I could start using it as a protractor for measuring angles. Of course, I'm exaggerating, but still. It had blade centering issues, and it would start catching the actual scales. Not the scales, the liners. So, as you notice from the other one, these liners are not drilled. This is not the lightest knife in the world. So I took that S30V blade out of that knife because I thought, it can't be the blade. Put it in this Paper Stone knife. Now, in putting it in this Paper Stone knife, I realized that this Paper Stone knife for 20 bucks had phosphor bronze bushings. Then it started dawning on me that you have a surface right here to create stability in the knife. You have just one. Oh, Lord. And you've got where the actual bolt goes through it to handle the blade. Well, if you're going to cause a shearing motion in this knife, really the only points that you have that aren't going to act like just a point load is right here and right here. This pillar, you know, it's a great thing to have. I know it doesn't count as nothing, but it's pretty damn close, because if you make that thing tight enough, the screw, the pillar, and everything, where it's hard to put together, then it gets to where it starts cutting into your bottom line. So there's basically, that is an infinitely small point in engineering terms. So honestly, your 2 points that are going to keep this thing from shearing and the blade from going off center are here and here. Those phosphor bronze bushings are going to do a lot better job than those Teflon impregnated nylon bushings. Now, so I carry this knife. I do it all the time. I talk to people about it. Of course, I talk to people about the paper stone. They go, you know, what is it? How does it wear? This, that, or the other. Well, they make countertops out of it. And you can buy it in a lot of different products. They make paper stone cutting boards. They make paper stone a lot of different things, because it's recycled paper and other stuff, and polyester, or I'm not going to get into it because I'll start acting a fool, and I'm not going to do that right now. What it basically is it's a very environmentally friendly process. Uses no oils, this, that, or the other. Now, we're getting back to sample size. Here's the sample size of one that I carry all the time. And of course, you're probably seeing some others over on the scale. But let's start pulling these in. This is actually what we consider to be a better representation of a sample size. Now, we have 5 copies right here of the same knife. Then, just as a sidebar, we've got 2 smaller copies. Now, these 2 smaller copies also have phosphor bronze bushings. So, of the same basic layout, right here, you know, we've got those samples. 5 full size, 2 smaller ones. Then, if you come into the Force line, now the Force Vantage line has a full back. You know, it's not a full flow through design. You got a little flow through right there. Same phosphor bronze bushings. Has some different kind of engraving on the G10. Still has the deep carry grip. Still has the S30V blade. And of course, these are stone washed. Great knife. And then we've got additional variations in different colors. So this, in reality, is what it takes me, and takes me quite a bit of time before we really get out there and we go, you know, that's a knife that I can sit there and stake my reputation on. Because of all of the rigmarole that goes on the internet, you never know whether that's current data, old data, new copies, new models, old models, da 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 da. Where did they repair the thing? I'm telling you that the change in the Vantage line, because I really like them. Is it a light knife? No. Is it the, is it this, that, or the other? No, I wouldn't use it for a pry bar. But I'll tell you one thing. It is about the strongest EDC knife that I've been able to get in a 4-ounce package. And that 4-ounce package, to get a knife that will do all of what this knife is, and think about it, this is without any lightning holes actually at all in the actual liners themselves. I mean, it is, Buck could go back and put some lightning holes in this thing and really lighten it up. But as of right now, there are none. Another thing that I found is the actual liners themselves between this line, and as you can see, there's some blue Loctite on there from that Buck actually installed. The liners themselves on these and latter iterations of this knife have been quite better. They're in a lot better shape because I got some screws and stuff in there of this one. And let's see if the camera will actually lock in. And just show the surface variation. I mean, it's not bad. Not bad at all, actually. But this one, the newer ones, are quite a bit better. Fit and finish, everything. If you hit a home run first time out, good for you. But if you take a design where you've had some problems and then you go back and fix the problems and make something that is a world-class knife and a great flipper. I mean, this thing just flips. Very easy. You don't have to do anything, you know, this, that, or the other. I really like the flipper design. I really like the fact that, you know, right-handed, because I don't have the liner here and all this, that, or the other. I can easily open it with the hole. And it just works. I like the deep carry clip. I like a lot of different things about this knife. But you're going to find a lot of different people's, you know, opinions on this thing varying widely, because they are dealing with either an old model or they have a limited sample size. And that is one thing that you're just going to have to take into consideration when you're looking at people's reviews. This is the Buck Vantage. This is my favorite carry knife of a heavier duty carry knife, where I want it to be able to do anything that I will ask a folding knife to do. And this is Guns, Knife, Watches. Have a good one.